Hi, I'm Matthew, and welcome to Miniscape. I suppose my hobby journey begins back when I was 11. If you've watched my other video, you'll have picked this up before, sort of. I had a background in, I say background, I'd painted 3 Airfix models, so I'd held a paintbrush before. And a group of friends seemed to be into this thing called Warhammer. This is in 1995. Some of them say to me, so there's this game that we play with the models, you build them, you paint them, and then you roll some dice and we have a great time. It sounded good to me. They kept on talking about Space Marine Rhino, like a rhino, but a kind of marine. Anyway, it was nothing like that. Nobody told me it was an APC. Anyway, so I persuaded my dad to take me into the store one day. I buy a box of 6 Space Marines and some paints. Watch my first video, I talk through that. So I have no idea what this game is. I just know that I've got to get models. Christmas comes round, because this is about September. Christmas comes round. My list to Santa is just all Warhammer. The 40k second edition box set. This one here. This is not the one that I got. I got rid of that. You have a purge and you throw things out, don't you? So I bought this off eBay. It's mostly got the pieces in them. Maybe I'll complete that at some point. But I'm glad I have this back in my collection. I literally think that apart from the books and the miniatures, I threw all the cardboard in the bin, including the Dreadnought. I realised that was a mistake, but I never thought I'd get back into Warhammer. So I ordered the 40k second edition. I order from Santa. I asked my parents, grandparents, to buy me that. I think I get a Lehman Russ battle tank as well, because tanks are cool, and I didn't know about which units were for which armies at that stage. I get some metal miniatures, a tactical squad, a devastator squad. I think I get a whole range of things. It doesn't take me that long really to put them all together, and I paint them and they look okay. Anyway, so I played second edition with my friends for a bit. I feel like I didn't really play second edition. I mean, I had the Codex Angels of Death, which I'm keeping safe in this plastic wallet. Again, it's not the original one. I got this off eBay for a steal recently. I feel like I played this quite a bit. I even tried to teach my dad at one point, and I think he just rolled the dice when I told him to. So I was playing, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I think one Sunday, my local Games Workshop were running starter games, introductory games. So I took along my miniatures. By this stage, I basically got almost the full Blood Angels collection. I had Dante, I had Mephiston, I had an assault squad to go with Dante as like a bodyguard. I had Corbulo, and I just took my collection. I think I had a Predator tank and a Whirlwind as well. I just took my whole collection to Games Workshop, and the only available guy, I think he was, so I was probably 12 or 13 at the time, and the other guy was 18-ish or in his early 20s or whatever. So the store manager was was my army and just telling me what to do, because I really didn't have much of a clue. So we played a game, and the other guy had a Chaos Space Marine army. I want to say it was Black Legion, because Abaddon was the leader. But really, back then, you had a mix of everything. You could have had a bunch of Nurgle Marines in there. You could have had your main Chaos Marines painted up as Black Legion. You could have had some Noise Marines in. The whole mix, a real smorgasbord of Chaos Space Marines. Anyway, suffice it to say, the battle did not go well for me. I eventually got Dante into close combat with Abaddon, and Abaddon killed him. And I remember the manager saying, it's like Horus Heresy all over again. As in, when Horus kills Sanguinius, which I thought that was pretty cool, because I felt like I was recreating kind of that proxy history. But that was probably the only game I played in a store. I remember playing a lot with a friend of mine who has an Eldar army, and he used to do this annoying thing where he would put a Falcon Grav tank behind a hill, pop up, shoot, because you could do pop-up attacks again and again, and I felt like I could never deal with it. His Howling Banshees used to dance all over my Terminators. I don't think I ever won a game of second edition when I was young. I stopped playing. Third edition came out. I hadn't played for about 18 months. I was probably more interested in PlayStation at the time. I used to go off and on video games, Warhammer. Of course, there was some overlap, but I only had a limited amount of time. So 3rd edition came out, but I got the book in 1998 when 3rd edition released, because a friend told me, he said, oh, I'm playing 40k again. Maybe we could play sometime. You've still got an army, haven't you? I was like, yeah, but I haven't played in ages. I've forgotten the rules. To be honest, I didn't really get the rules the first time around, because 2nd edition was fairly complicated. He says, no, it's a new edition, new rules. It's a lot simpler, but you can play more stuff in your army, and honestly, it's great. So I went to the store. I remember they had a starter game between, they had some Space Marines. They'd taken off the backpacks and painted them like stormtroopers from Star Wars. So, you know, white with black shading, against Necrons, which is strange because I don't think Necrons were an actual faction then. They certainly didn't have a codex, but whatever, maybe the manager, they were metal models, so maybe the manager had like made up some rules. It doesn't matter. But me and my friend played, and I felt like my Space Marines were a lot more effective. I felt like things could move faster. You could move and then you could charge, so potential 12-inch movement in a turn, which unless you ran or charged in 2nd edition, that was actually quite quick compared with that. So I like the way the game was fast. I like the way the game was relatively straightforward. I like the fact that I could fit all the rules into my head. And so that was really the start of the golden age for me with playing Warhammer 40,000. I used to play in store. Sometimes I used to play against my friend, the same guy with the Eldar army. I never really beat him apart from once. I used to play with him at his house like every week. We had like books under a bed sheet, which were like hills. And he'd made some ruins, and I brought my cardboard terrain from the 2nd edition box set, and it was fine. But I never really won. I think it's because I wasn't playing Blood Angels to their strengths. I actually collected Dark Angels as well at the time, because the Angels of Death Codex, it actually had in not just Blood Angels, but it had Dark Angels as well. So I thought, well, rather than buying another codex for 2nd edition, I'll collect some Dark Angels, and Ravenwing bikes seemed cool, so I could have them as allies. So I continued that thing in 3rd edition, but I really don't feel like I really played to the strengths of the army. It doesn't matter. I had fun anyway. We did did a couple of campaigns as well, gave our guys experience. There was some experience rules in 3rd edition. And then when I was 16, I kind of stopped. I lost interest again, and I didn't really get back into it for another probably year or two, and at which point I decided I'd just paint over my Dark Angels and paint them so I've got a full Blood Angels force. And I feel like I went through a time then when I was enjoying my games more. Tau had come out, and Blood Angels just ate through Tau at the time. They totally chewed through them. I had a large death company and a large assault squad. It was a large jump pack army. The other squads were mechanized, so I could get up there on the board, get into combat quite quickly. It was fantastic. I think I had a string of 8 games unbeaten, which was great. And around about that time, no, it could have been earlier actually. Could have been the time before when I was into it. Anyway, I took part in the 3rd War for Armageddon, which was great. I remember there was about 20 of us in the Games Workshop, because they called them Games Workshop then, not Warhammer. So what we had was about 10 people either sides of the table, and then 10 of us were Imperium, so including me. I had my Blood Angels, which I'm glad that they wrote into the law that they took part in the 3rd War of Armageddon, because some guys had Ultramarines, and yeah, okay, some of them could have been there, but the White Dwarfs at the time mainly focused on, you know, Black Templars, Blood Angels, and Salamanders. Armageddon Steel Legion were the main Imperial forces there. So I'm glad I actually had one of the official forces that were there at the time. And then everyone else on the other side was Orcs. And I remember this one guy had quite a large group of boys, and he charged forward, and I met those boys with my Furioso Dreadnought and Death Company, and so we got into a bit of a melee, and I think I won. But everybody was kind of rolling dice at the same time and saying things like, I'm attacking your models. These your models? I'm attacking them now. And this one guy, everyone was attacking him. And he was like, give me a break. Stop, give me a break. It was chaos. It was total chaos. But it was great fun. I think what got me back into Warhammer the third time, Warhammer 40,000 the third time, was there was a card game called, I think it was called Battle for Pandora Prime. It was a collectible card game. My friend and I just bought tons of booster packs for that and made some decks of, I think mine was mainly Space Marines, of course, because I was very unimaginative like that. And he had Chaos or Orcs. And so we used to play games of that. And I really liked the way that we could experience the Warhammer 40,000 universe, but it not take ages to set up. It was just a card game. Playing that game made me dig out my models again, and instantly I was hooked. I was back into it. I think my mum said, no, you're not really getting back into it again. And every time it's like, oh, yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm on the slope. It's a slippery slope. I'm flying down. I'm in the hobby again. So at the same time, I was sort of towards the end of school. We realized, my friend and I, we saw that GW had released Battlefleet Gothic, and this could possibly be, I think I enjoyed this more than 40k. I think I enjoyed this more than 40k. My friend and I bought the starter box between us because we could only afford £20 each, and it was £40. And you got 4 Imperial ships, 4 Chaos ships that were cruisers. You could get little escorts in blister packs. You can get the larger boxes with cruisers in, which you got in the game, and there was like several types you could build from the kit. Or there was like the large ships, the heavy cruisers, the battle cruisers, and many more things for Orcs, Eldar, Imperials, and Chaos. And then there was later expansions added things for Space Marines, Necrons, Dark Eldar, Tyranids. But the main 4 were Eldar, Chaos, Orcs, and Imperials, but not Space Marines, just the Imperial Navy. We played so many games. So we split the box between us. My friend got the Imperial ships. He was the one who played Eldar, and I got Chaos. And I remember listening to the album by Metallica, S&M, and the song For Whom the Bell Tolls and Human. And I just thought, this is Chaos music right here. And I'm playing Chaos, and we really got into the swing of it. And I just love the idea of the ships flying past each other, broadsides, maneuvering, flying through debris fields, avoiding asteroids, firing torpedoes, assault craft countermeasures. It was brilliant. My friend later went off that and said that I could buy his half out. So I got all of his Imperial ships as well. And so that ended in about 2002. I went to university, and I just had zero interaction with Warhammer University. And then when, it was probably several years later, got married, moved into our own place, got all my stuff from my parents' house and took it into our new place, and there was all models again, and I was like, this is cool. I didn't really do anything with them. I was looking to purge some stuff out of my life to make some money because I was really into board games. I think Carcassonne is one of my favorite board games ever. So I bought Settlers of Catan, which I think is everybody's gateway game. Carcassonne. Memoir 44 was a war game, board game / war game that I'd got into, and those are the top 3 that I think we played the most. But to fuel this board game addiction, I need to generate some cash because I had a mortgage to pay. So that's where my salary went, and bills to pay. So money for my hobbies had to come from somewhere else. I sold a load of stuff. I sold all my Battlefleet Gothic stuff. I deeply regret that. I sold almost all of my Warhammer 40,000 miniatures from my childhood. I really deeply regret that. And that was around about 2010. And I thought, I'm never getting back into it because board games are superior. Spoilers. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It depends. A couple of years later, I bought, and I know it came out in 2004, but I was late to the party. I bought Dawn of War on PC. I've really been into real-time strategy games for a long time. I played most of the Command and Conquers to death, especially the original Red Alert and its sequels. But the original Red Alert I played a lot. Actually, I got the remastered one on Steam a few years ago. It's brilliant. When it's on sale, you should get it if you're into that thing. So Dawn of War, I played a little bit back in the day when it was released, when a friend bought it, but I didn't have a machine that could run it. But later on I did. So I brought it and I was like, this is just the most amazing Warhammer 40,000 video game ever. And I'd played others. I played Space Hulk Vengeance of the Blood Angels, which I think is a bit of a mess, but it was entertaining. And I played Final Liberation, which again is a wonderful game if you can get it on good old games, because it's like it's a sort of, it's based on second edition Epic, but it's a video game, and it's either Orcs or Imperials, and you can't play anything else. And I wish they'd done more with it, but that was turn-based. That was different. But this is real time, and it was. I think the review the PC Gamer put on the front cover was thunderous, and it absolutely was. And I did have a few miniatures knocking around, so I played that and I went and found them. I thought, this is it. I'm on the slippery slope again. I'm back into the hobby, big time. I'm really back into the hobby. I don't actually go to a store. Instead, I go on, because I'd moved to a new area. It wasn't the same store. And to be honest, I found going into Games Workshops quite intimidating. It felt like there was a clique. It didn't when it was me and my friends, although we were probably the clique, but going to a new one, it did. And I'd have to meet new people. Nobody that I was friends with at the time in this new place after I got married was into Warhammer. I don't even know if my wife wanted me to get into it, but I did. So I went on eBay and I found someone selling the 5th edition starter set, Assault on Blackreach. And it had all the models in it, none of which were painted. And I just thought they were brilliant miniatures. I've still got all the orcs from that. I didn't keep the Space Marines. Again, I sold them. I'll get on to why I did that. Never mind. I did eventually pluck up the courage to go into the store, and they'd released 6th edition. This is probably the edition of 40k that I played the most in my adult life. It's probably on the same par as when I was a teenager. This was starting to suffer from rules bloat at the time, but it was the only edition available. It's the only edition people were playing. I only realised that in hindsight. I thought it was a great edition at the time. The smell of it is still, it's got a great smell. Games Workshop, you should release an odor called Odor Codex, because your books smell great. Around about the same time, I acquired a copy of Space Hulk, the re-release that they did in 2008, 2009. They then did a 4th edition in 2014. It sold out very quickly. I got mine off eBay at a good price. And so, because that was like a board game, war game. And then I decided, well, I think I'll get into 6th edition as well. And because I had those, I thought, well, I could use the Gene Steelers in a Tyranid army. And I did collect some Tyranids when I was like 13. But nothing ever really happened with them. Again, I thought they were cool models, so I just bought a ton of them. But they got sold off again, regretfully, because I'd love to reacquire such models. I might do, but I'm kind of drowning in Ultramarines at the moment. Slight tangent, my Ultramarine purchase was meant to be, I'm going to recreate a 2nd edition Ultramarines army. But then I went for a Horus Heresy army. I've got Leviathan Dread there. And now I've bought the Leviathan box. I've just decided to paint those Ultramarines, so I'll get around to that at some point. I think I'm going to have an Ultramarines army for every edition. Not every edition, but every edition that I'm into. 6th edition. So I decided to get Tyranids. I'd already built up through eBay purchases an Imperial Fists army. I later traded that for something else. I bought quite a big Tyranid army. Again, a lot of it was eBay. I decided that is the way that I wanted to go to save money. And I played many games with it. I remember playing against another Tyranid player. That was fun. You can watch my video about how I lost that army when I moved house again. Big loss. Basically took me out of the hobby again. So I must have had well over 2,000 points and hundreds of termagants, hundreds of hormagaunts. I had a winged hive tyrant. I had a Turvigon, which was nice because it spawned termagants. I had a Morlock and a Trigon. I had Biovores. I had Zonethropes, which were just like floating las cannons. Fantastic. I liked the game when it was the 6th edition rules, but the 5th edition codex. And I felt like I had quite a strong list there. A group of us got together and played a map campaign. And my team, when I came into the campaign, because they started before me, I was feared because like, oh no, it's the Tyranids. And I liked that there was that fear. The store manager told me that my army was one of the best painted he'd seen at the time, which I found really encouraging and made me take more pride in my painting. That was my Tyranid army. It was beautiful and I lost it. Watch the video if you want to find out the story behind that. I have 2 models of that remaining. I lost about half of them in a house move and then I sold off the rest because I was just too heartbroken. I wanted to get rid of them. And I started a guard army, and then we're coming into 7th edition here, and I never really properly finished that guard army. I played a couple of games with it, but then we were having kids and I just didn't have time for the hobby. So I shelved it. And this time I didn't sell anything. I thought I'm not going to do it this time. Will I get back into it? I don't know, but I feel like I've spent a long time painting these and they're to a good standard. I've poured my heart and soul into these models. I do not want to sell them. So I kept them. Anyway, what I haven't said is acquired the largest collection of miniatures that I'd ever had. And I want to tell you how I did that. So I realized that I could get miniatures cheap on eBay. You can't always now, but back then, about 2012, 13, if you could watch for the right deals, you could. I realized some people would be like, look, my kid used to be into this, but they're not into it anymore. I just want rid of these models. I can't be bothered to post them, so collection only. And if collection was local, then I would just go around and pick them up. And because they weren't advertised on the whole eBay, only local people would be bidding, and so I'd be more likely to get a good price. Plus, some people who put things collection only, they might have lived in hundreds of miles away from me or whatever. They would say collection only, and I would send them a message saying, would it be okay for a courier to collect them for you if I arrange the courier? And they said, fine. So I was starting to get job lots coming in. I bought a job lot for £150 and I must have sold. I kept some things and I sold the rest. I made about £1,000 on that. And that's what I kind of did, rinse and repeat. Sometimes I did buy things if they were a good job lot. The key principle is buy a job lot with stuff in that you want, keep that and sell off the stuff that you don't. And usually you at least break even. And so your profit is the models. It's a bit of effort. I kind of enjoyed doing it. I stopped doing it because I was spending so much time on this eBay business that I didn't have enough time for painting or playing. So I stopped, and I haven't really done that again. I still buy things on eBay quite a lot, but I don't tend to run it as a kind of, it was a business. And it was pretty good. It fueled my hobby, but it also took away my time. So I don't do that anymore. I just have to be patient, wait and save up. 2019, towards the end, I don't know why. I think I was just bored one day and I thought I'm going to get out some models and start painting them again. I'm going to go through and then the pandemic hit and everybody was getting back into it. And so you just got to roll with that, don't you? And this is kind of, I've not stopped since then. Being on Instagram kind of helped because I had people saying, yeah, this is cool. I really like your miniatures, the way that you paint them. And so I restarted my Blood Angels collection, which is mainly Primaris. I had an Orc army, which mainly I collected that by accident, like around about 2013 or so. I just kept things from eBay job lots that I sold at Orcs, and slowly they built up, but they were half finished. So I finished that off. So I've got quite a large Orc army, and I finished that. I had my Guard army, so I painted up some more of those. I haven't played a ton of games. I played a handful of games of 9th. I really haven't played much at all the last few years. I've been painting. So maybe I'll get some games in at some point. I've dabbled in Horus Heresy 2nd edition Got the 10th edition box set, so I guess we'll see. But that is just me ranting about my hobby history for half an hour. I hope you enjoyed it. Questions down in the comments. Take care.